Hello. This is the Mobile Dance Film Festival Post-Fest Live. And we are coming in on Fridays to talk to filmmakers who were a part of this year's festival and to have discussions with them about their films. So today we'll have Charly Wenzel, whose film Pause was part of our quarantine screen selection. She will be chatting with us about what it took to make her film and the collaborations that she had. And I think now I just need to wait to see that she is here in the room. And then once I see her here, we will get started. So all right, there's Charly. Go live with Charly. Yes. Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Aww. Okay, so I have to preface this whole conversation for everybody with the fact that Charly and I performed together in Third Rail Project's show Then She Fell. She is my queen.
Oh.
And
you're my bunny.
And it was super exciting to talk to Charly. A while ago we talked about how you had been making dance films and I totally plugged the Mobile Dance Film Festival. I was like, you gotta make one on your phone and submit one. And I was just personally very happy to see Pause as part of the submissions this year, especially this year when we had this new category that we made, the quarantine screen selections, and how we were able to really highlight the work being done in such, well, in less than ideal circumstances. So just wanted to say that it was really nice to have your film. That being said, hey, how are you?
I'm good.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. And thanks again so much for having me at the festival. That was amazing. That was such a great program you got there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I agree. I think it's beautiful, and your film was part of that. So let's talk about it. Pause, not this.
I know, that's what it sounds like.
Pause, like pause, hold it. Tell us about it. You had, yeah. Tell us about Pause. Tell us about, first of all, many dancers from many different locations. I think something that's really interesting in creating a work during quarantine like this is, on a good day, scheduling is the highest hurdle with dance making, filmmaking. So maybe just talk about how you coordinated everything.
Sure. So first, I just want to say that this project means the world to me. Like, I was so happy to be able to put it together, and it was just a very healing process to actually create this film and to connect with so many amazing artists. And if it wasn't for their contributions, there wouldn't be a film. So I was really more of a facilitator in this project, more than anything else. And just to start at the beginning, as you said, like, I'm a dance artist based in New York City, and I think it was March 11th when our show closed down, something around that time.
Yeah, March. I always say that March 12th was the end
12th,
of everything.
yeah.
But
So like
March 11th.
very, like just the immediate stop to everything. That's the day when Broadway closed. And then a week later, I think all of New York City closed down, right? Everything shut down and we were in quarantine. And it was just such a shock to the system, like, especially for us as performers, we're so used to going 100 miles an hour and to run from class to rehearsal to performing to working various jobs to survive, right? Especially in New York. And it was just such a roadblock, everything was just, frozen. And it was just a lot to process at the time. And for me personally, or I think for like us artists in general, the way we process some of those major life events is by creating art about it. And I was pretty immediately inspired to express what I was feeling and going through and thinking about through making some kind of work about it. And I was just thinking about all my fellow performers all over the world who were going through the exact same thing, just being stuck at home. And we're so used to creating and just expressing ourselves and performing for an audience, and to not have that all of a sudden, and was just like a lot, right, to handle. So I just wanted to create a platform for other artists to express, how they were feeling at this time. And so I posted a call on social media for originally just dance artists to submit 15-second dance videos, like really short videos, but you can say a lot in 15 seconds, I felt like. Um, just to share, how they were feeling, how they were processing this time, how they were being quarantined. And then I opened it up to other artists, right? Because I felt like, okay, it would be nice to see how other artists express themselves during this time. So I opened it up to painters, photographers, to poets. I posted a call for 10-word poems, which was, like a challenge, I'm sure, but I received amazing poems, and also for musicians to collaborate in this process. So that's how I started. And then the submission just started coming in, and it was like amazing. It was like this wealth of creativity, and I felt so selfish because I was like, wow, I'm getting these gifts, like to create something with them. And it was just really beautiful to see how inspired everybody was and how hungry everybody was to express themselves, in their own unique ways. So the way it was coordinated was just really everybody being their own filmmaker and sending in their submissions. And then I had the job of just putting it together, which was I felt the pressure of doing all this beautiful material justice, like how to put this together to really do it justice. So that was my challenge. But I think it turned out pretty well. And I had like beautiful music, a beautiful sound score to guide me through the way, which was actually performed by 5 musicians, also like scattered all over the world. Like one was in Australia, one in the Netherlands, one person on the East Coast, West Coast, so all over the place. And they collaborated in putting together one piece at a time. So I kind of saw it come together. Then we added somebody's voice and then somebody's guitar, and it just, culminated in this beautiful sound score that I was able to use and guide me through the process of editing everything together.
Whoa.
That was a lot. Sorry, that was a mouthful.
I mean, it just kind of reaffirms everything I've been thinking about this time, is that the creative spirit, while our daily activity might be different and our routines, the creative spirit just does not, I mean, it cannot be stopped.
No, like it's actually the opposite. I feel like once we are forced to be still, we're really going inwards, right? And this is when the creativity really starts. At least that's how it was for me, and I feel like that's how it is for a lot of people. Sometimes we just need some peace and quiet to, create. And yeah.
One thing that I didn't realize that it was an open call to the poets as well, because the poetry in the film comes up and you can read it along with as the dancing is happening, as the film is going on. I didn't realize that was an open as well. So there was creation in every single there was art being created for every single element.
Aspect, right? Exactly.
And then you, in
I
the
just wove
editing
it together.
process, you put it together.
Exactly. I was just like the puppet master. I just put the pieces together, basically. Which, with spoken word is tricky. If you have like a visual collage that is mostly dance and photography and like paintings, to incorporate words, I found was a challenge because it's like it's easy to take away your focus from one element, right? If you layer them too much. So I tried to find a way where each element could really speak for itself without taking away from another element.
It's so beautiful. It's just beautiful to think about it just seems such like pure art that it all just kind of came together.
It's like the energy. I feel like you can feel the energy of all these artists, like over 40 artists coming together and putting their heart and soul. Like you find a piece of them, in this project. And I think that makes it so special, like that connection of
Mhm.
us all connecting over the distance, like really internationally, and to just
Yeah.
create something together during this time. That makes it really meaningful to me.
Was there any coaching that you gave them as far as, you know, I'm guessing, I mean, you asked people to create this thing, so I'm sure there was a comfort level as far as if they were going to make their 15-second dance, they felt comfortable enough to set up their camera and press record and do all that. But was there any coaching at all? Was there anything that you offered them, or how, or as far as like communicating with them about anything that you might need, or was this just pure send me something and we'll figure it out?
Right. I left it very, very open because I just wanted to see, what people came up with. The only technical thing that I had to mention was the format, like just make sure you shoot yourself in horizontal format because otherwise it would have been difficult to edit. But other than that, I mean, I had a lot of people who were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my video is much longer than what you asked for." So I got that a lot. So then
Right.
I kind of went in there and picked, like the strongest 15 seconds that, or whatever fit best into the rest of the material. But other than that, I left it completely open, and I'm really glad that I did because this is why you have this huge variety of different locations, and energetically, I think it makes it even more interesting this way.
So this is a perfect example of how dance film, to me, exists in a way where it's the whole experience itself is a dance. And so while we had mainly stationary shots that were then edited together, it was in the kind of relationship with the music and the words.
Hmm.
And if we think of dance as this intentional movement of things, or the combination of things together in an order that go, I
Hmm.
think something that's so successful is that relationship that you were able to create with the music and the poetry and these clips that then get put together in the editing process, which I think is one of the most important parts of dance film making, is this
Hmm.
idea that dance comes out in the technical aspects of editing. I call it ediography. I don't know if we've talked
Hmm.
about this, but
No, but I like that.
because
Yeah.
it's not just about files going in order at that point. It is about really seeing how they move together, and to me, that's dance.
Yeah.
And so it seems that your task was very editing heavy,
Oh, yeah.
putting the music with the right move, you know, the order of the clips based on probably the music. But if you just
Mhm.
want to talk about that, because that seems where the most, the bulk of putting this together happens.
Yeah, that's you can't, underestimate the amount of work, especially when you get submissions from over 40 artists and then you have all these clips and you have to put them together. So it can be a little overwhelming to begin with. So I was happy that I had the music to, as I said, to guide me. So the way I put it together was determined by the music, like structure of the music and the flow of the music, but also transitions, right? Like which clip should follow the next, like what makes sense in terms of transitions, also building in the still photography, like just to find some kind of sense in this, it's still an abstract collage, but it has to be cohesive in some way, right?
Right.
So, and the way it came together, it was kind of magical, because the musicians, they didn't know the videos, they didn't know what they were composing for, and somehow it just, because the inspiration was quarantine and the pandemic, we were kind of like on that same wavelength, right? So we were all experienced a similar situation, and I think that's why everything fit together so well. It's just
Totally.
like um, but yeah, and also what you said about, you have the camera being still for your dance videos, but then in editing, you can create movement, right?
Right. Right.
So I think that's very important too. You can create dynamic by adding movement to these still shots. And I think that's a really, really useful tool to not have it be too static, but have it be like a dance, right? So this is what did you call it? Editography?
Ideography.
Ideography, yes. That's where that comes in. So it is like choreographing that, yeah, the piece.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's what for me with dance film as a genre, I feel like that's what makes it that holistic experience between
Mm-hmm.
the subject, the camera, and the editing.
Right.
Those things all have to be present, or else it's just dance documentation.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's really important. That makes all the difference. And
I think having that sensible eye that you have as a dancer yourself, as a performer yourself, in the editing process, I think having that sensibility is what helps
mm-hmm.
round out the dance film
For sure.
experience as a process driven piece of art. Um,
Right.
who taught you how to edit? What software do you use?
um,
I mean, this is a big question because now the dance film is kind of one of the only ways to present work right now. And big question is, what software do I use? How do I do it? And so,
yeah, I mean, like nowadays it's so easy to create your own content, right? Like it's so much easier than it used to be. I personally, I use Final Cut Pro. That's because you can just do a lot with that. And I'm not an editor, like I'm like learning by doing. That's
great.
my thing. And I've learned a lot, during quarantine, just editing different projects. You just have to start, don't worry too much about, oh, I have to take a class or I have to study this. It's really learning by doing. The more you do it, the more you learn, the more shortcuts, little tricks you learn, and it's actually a lot of fun. So I encourage all the dance artists out there who are stuck at home and can't perform, shoot your videos and edit them and like have fun with it, and you're gonna get better and better at it. It's a interesting, and it's great to have that skill. I feel like as artists we need to be versatile. The more skills you have, the better.
It's definitely a transferable skill, especially these days when it comes to, you know, just another tool to use for your artistic practice, I think.
Yes.
Because editing, it is such a huge part. I think maybe a misconception, maybe I'm totally wrong, but is that editing is sort of like the final, or it's just like where it all ends. And to me, editing is like starting right at the beginning of the creative process. Because it's like you can have an idea of where things are going, but once you get in there and you start working things out, it again becomes its own, as I'm sure you ran into it, it becomes its own creation. And
Right.
I think it's just really important. And I think the more, I love what you said about learning by doing. I think the more that dancers and performers become their own editors, their eye will be able to kind of guide these moments in a different way. It just
I think so. If you are used to like working with bodies in space and choreography, and you work in like with like images and constellations, and I think all of that is actually going to help you in the editing process. You know, those are skills that you can transfer into your editing work. So, and it's a similar experience to me, to be honest. You know, to choreograph for a stage, and you always have to edit yourself, right? Like even
Right.
if you do, like if you edit your work on stage, it's a form of editing. So we've already all done it without having
Yes.
edited video work, and you'll notice that once you start you'll be like, oh, okay, that feels familiar and it feels very creative. And it's, yeah, it's just a different way of editing.
Yeah. I totally feel that. I think composition kind of
Right.
compositional tools can be used anywhere. It's just kind of like reformatting. It's like, okay, my stage is now a screen, my bodies
Mm-hmm.
are these little files, and I
Mm-hmm.
gotta make sure that they're in the right place to hit the right note or all these things. So,
Exactly. And also what's exciting is how much you can do. You know, like there are endless possibilities in editing. You can work with all these effects and different angles, and it's just so much fun. You know, it's like expanding your choreographic work, you know, to another level where you have like a lot of freedom to do so many different things with it. So it's really fun.
well, I didn't know if you knew this before, but you are officially an Ediographer, so congratulations.
Yes.
You did it.
Oh,
And so
I love it.
very successfully. Uh, I guess in closing, just because, you know, don't want to keep you too long, and I so appreciate your insight into this film. I wanted to ask you about the image that we've been using for you're sitting. You're sitting in the street, looking up,
Mm.
and it's just such a beautiful image with that house and the red
Uh,
shutters. Where is that?
oh, you know what? That's a photograph that one of the artists contributed, Vanessa Bunster. So it's her photograph. I don't know where she took it.
Oh,
I
that's
don't,
not you.
that's not me. No. That's like
I
the opening image, right? That's actually,
right.
yeah. No, no, no. That's actually the artist herself. Like she contributed that.
It is such a. I thought it was you because in my mind I just short blonde hair, and so I thought
No, it's
you.
not. But it actually looks like the street I live in Brooklyn, in Flatbush. So it could be there. I don't think it is there, but it's a similar neighborhood.
Wow, it's just such a beautiful image, and
I
it's
know.
looking
It's a
up and
great
just
opener.
yeah,
It like sets the tone, you know? It's like it expresses everything. It expresses the loneliness and the empty streets and
yeah,
that like the not knowing. Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
and scratch that. Maybe not in closing. Then I just what just came up hearing that about how it sets the tone. I have to commend all of the artists that contributed to this film because you're right. They did. It all seemed like they. That's why I thought there must have been some sort of direction of some kind,
Mm.
but they all seem to feel it.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I just feel like even if you hadn't have made this call and they hadn't submitted, that connection was already there.
Right,
And
exactly.
what you were able to do is just get everybody in on it to kind
Yeah.
of put it in a film and
You know, and like I want to mention something that one of the collaborators said the other day when we had like a Q&A for another film festival. She said it was an opportunity for her to move with purpose, which was so important during this time. And I thought that was like beautifully put, right? We have all this energy and this creativity. Where are we putting it? So to have this opportunity to move with purpose, I think that's what really meant a lot for a lot of the collaborators. So yeah, I think that just ties it all together. And also with you like offering this quarantine um, screen selection program, that's another thing. If you think about what we're creating during this time, that we're actually documenting history in a way with this art, like during this time. We were talking about that for this other film festival too, like where they had this quarantine selection. And years from now, we're going to go back and watch these films and be like, wow, remember this time. And now we remember what it felt like because I feel like we tend to forget really easily. You know, this is a crazy time, but I think in a few years we'll forget what it actually felt like. But with those films, going back, watching those films, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, this is what this felt like. This was a really weird time. And I think this is why it's so important to create art during this time. It's like a form of documentation, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's a time capsule for sure because, I
Mm.
mean, it just seemed, it totally just seemed wrong to not honor the fact that there was so much creative innovation. I mean, actual innovation, I think, especially with filmmaking. I mean, we were
Mhm.
getting submissions. People were making films from Zoom and, you know, all of the exquisite corpse type filmmaking and FaceTime footage and all this stuff. It's like,
Amazing.
yes, that stuff existed before,
Hmm.
and people could have been making that before, but the fact that it was all directed, like it just pivoted
Hmm.
into this new generative moment. I mean, it was impossible not to acknowledge and and
Yeah.
celebrate. I mean, if
Yeah.
there's one thing that we could actually have a celebratory moment about
Yeah,
in the past
exactly.
few months, it's the fact that the creative spirit just cannot be
That's,
stifled.
nope.
And
Never.
you,
It's
and you are a
gonna.
part of that, and so are all of your collaborators and this team of artists, the poets,
It's
those
amazing.
the
I
poet,
mean,
the music. I mean,
it's, yeah, I was like just so moved and so thankful, and everybody sharing so generously. So yeah, it's all them. I just put it together, but they created the art. So it's really it's all those artists.
that's so cool. Oh,
Yeah.
well, Charlie, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you so much for having me and for having the film.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much
It
for
was an
being
honor.
here. And for anyone listening, Charlie, find her on Instagram, find her work. Uh,
Yes. If I can do a little advertisement. So if you
yes.
find me
Oh
on
my gosh.
Instagram, we have like a whole bunch of festivals coming up still where Pause is gonna play. So just go to my Instagram, Charlie W97, and I'm gonna post about all the upcoming festivals. We have a few international festivals, a few in the US, Canada. So I'll post the latest news so you can check out the full film if in case you missed it at the Mobile Dance Film Festival, which I hope you didn't, but if you did, there are a few more chances to catch it.
Luckily, luckily, it's being presented all over the place as it should be. Charlie W97 on Instagram. You'll be updating everything there,
Right.
and we're just so happy to have you now as part of the Mobile Dance Film Festival community. And yeah, I'm glad you were able to make it today.
Yes. Thank you so much, Andy.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And I will be talking to you soon, but
Yes, please.
I'm just gonna go ahead and press end on this and say thank you
Okay.
to everybody who saw this chat. And yeah, thanks all around.
All right.
All right, bye,
Bye.
Charlie.